You know, a week ago, there was a football game on. You may have remembered. It was the national championship college football game. It became very obvious within the first 20 minutes of the game that one team was overmatched. You know, at the end of the first quarter, who wants to guess the score? It was 17-7. Although the team was down by 10 points, it looked like there might be some hope. However, by halftime, the game was already decided. The score was 38-7. It looked hopeless to the losing team at that point. And ultimately it was, with the final score of 65-7. It was a complete blowout. It wasn't even close. You know, there are times in life that situations look completely hopeless. You know, like that football game that we witnessed a week ago, the circumstances look insurmountable, and the likelihood of a favorable result appear to be minimal at best. Well, here's some examples of what I'm talking about. Maybe it's a financial crisis that you have in your life. You find yourself unable to pay your bills. Your monthly income is less than your monthly bills. You run a deficit every single month. The rent's due, utility bills are late, there's no food in the house, and your car needs brakes and your tires are bald. You have less than $30 in the bank. There's no money and nothing's changing for the better. And to make things even worse, you were informed that your job is being eliminated after working there for almost 9 years. Listen, it looks hopeless. There's health problems. You just found out you or a family member has a serious illness. This isn't the first bout. This isn't your first time in your family. And it feels eerily similar to when you lost somebody close to you. There's no health insurance. And every hospital and doctor's office that you interacted with, they've sent you away. It feels like absolutely nobody cares, and you have lost hope. You're having marriage problems. Your wife recently told you that she wants a divorce. She says she doesn't love you anymore, and she's found somebody else. And you wonder, how could she have done this to you after spending so many years together? You built a life together. You have kids, and you were planning to retire together. You love her, and you can't even imagine life without her. You feel rejected, and you feel alone. It's over. It looks like there's no hope. There's a family member in crisis. Your son has always been the rebel of the family. He's been in trouble at school from the time he was in kindergarten. He's gotten counseling. He's been to a Christian summer camps. He's been involved in sports and other activities in order to connect him with good influences. He goes to church on Sundays, and he even comes on Wednesdays. You've done everything you can think of to point him in the right direction. And after all of that, he dropped out of school. Now he's in trouble with the law. And he was just arrested on a very serious charge that will change his life forever if he's convicted. It looks most likely that he'll be found guilty because he did commit the crime. The situation looks hopeless. Maybe it's depression. Every morning, you find it almost impossible to get out of bed and get started. You've lost interest in the things that used to bring you the most joy and the sense of purpose. You feel sad. You feel empty. And there are days that you cry several times a day, sometimes crying yourself to sleep at night. You often experience insomnia, and other times you sleep too much. There's just no sense to it. You have no energy. You can't even tackle the most simple of tasks. You have angry outbursts and irritability or frustration. Frequently, it's just over tiny, small matters. You feel like a failure, and you can't seem to forgive yourself for your past transgressions. You think that the world might be a better place without you. Your life is hopeless. Maybe it's abuse. All your life, you have endured abuse in every form. The beatings from your stepdad started when you were only 6. Your stepsister started sexually abusing you when you were 8, and that continued into your teens. Your mom verbally abused you, telling you that you were a mistake, that you should have never been born. And in an attempt to run from your circumstances, you started having sex at an early age. But every relationship turns out the same. They're abusive too. Now as an adult, you're stuck in a horribly abusive situation you can't seem to get out of. You leave, but you keep coming back. It's a vicious, hopeless cycle. When will it ever end? Listen, I bet you're glad you came to CR tonight, huh? Those are just a few examples of situations that seem like they're completely hopeless. They appear like there isn't any possibility for a turnaround, that things can never, ever get better. But family, that simply is not true. In fact, by admitting powerlessness and unmanageability, that's the beginning of ridding yourself of your hopelessness. In recovery, this is what we call step 1. We admit that we are powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, that our lives have become unmanageable. The realization of unmanageability can be the beginning of turning what looks like a hopeless situation into an opportunity for change. You can go from hopeless to hope-filled. So what do you do to stop feeling hopeless and begin the process of becoming a hopeful person, somebody who has hope in spite of the circumstances? Well, let me share a few steps with you tonight. But before we do that, I want you to make sure that you get this outline out. Follow along. You'll notice it's not a real big one, so make sure you pay attention. The first step to stop feeling hopeless is change your environment. Change your environment. You know, oftentimes hopelessness is the result of staying in a toxic or unhealthy environment. By showing up tonight, you've already started the process. For those of you, this is your first night here, listen, welcome home. Amen. Really, welcome home. Now, I know you feel weird being here. I know that. But you made that first step. You got out of your comfort zone and you walked through these doors. You know, you've started the process. If your current environment is bad, start spending time with positive, encouraging people who've overcome many of the same issues that you have right now. You'll start to realize that there is hope. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." You know, the people you hang out with, I just can't express it. It's interesting. I'll have people come in and they'll tell me about their life, and then they share with me about some of the encouragers that they spend time with. You know, the people that say, "Oh, nothing's ever going to change. It's always going to be the same." It's like Eeyore gets together, right, with a whole pack of Eeyores. And so what you've got to do is you've got to change the places that you are and the environment that you go. Next, you need to embrace your powerlessness. Embrace your powerlessness. Stop denying that you have control over anything. Listen, if you did, you wouldn't be here tonight, would you? By admitting that you're powerless, you're inviting the one who has all power into your circumstances. This reminds me of a common scenario here at Care and Recovery. A husband and wife show up in the newcomers group. And as Marcia and I talk with them, almost every single time, one or the other minimizes the gravity of the situation. It sounds something like this. So I say to him, "Hey, what brought you here tonight?" And the husband says, "Well, we're here because I drink a little, and I got arrested. And the judge says I need to come to a few meetings, so here we are." Wife chimes in and she goes, "He's a drunk. Don't let him fool you. This is his 3rd DUI. I'm about ready to leave him. He's lost good jobs. He's wrecked vehicles. He lies all the time. I'm sick of it. Something better change or I'm leaving." That's a common scenario. Listen, embrace the fact that you have a problem or you're in a bad situation. Listen, it's okay. Whether you've endured abuse, whether you struggle with pornography, whether you enable a family member or you have some other life-controlling issue, you are in the right place. So just embrace it. First of all, you're in the right place and you're powerless. You didn't show up by accident tonight, and it's obviously gotten out of control for you. Listen to Romans 7:18, one of my favorite passages. It says, "And I know nothing good lives in me. That is in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't." Anybody feel that way? Yeah, all of us do. I'm a pastor, and there are times I go, man, I'm barely saved, right? Hey, you didn't need to say amen to that. Thanks for that. Yeah, all right. And now I feel good about myself, don't I? Yeah. Listen, I need to embrace my powerlessness as well. But embracing your powerlessness begins the process of finding hope. Then, when you come to care and recovery, look for examples of hope. Look for examples. Just, listen, I want you to do this. Just kind of look around you here, okay? I want you to know that there are dozens, there's more than dozens actually, of examples of hope of people who walked through these doors feeling hopeless, alone, and empty. They didn't believe there was even a possibility that they could change, but they kept coming back. And slowly but surely, things began to change for the better. Sometimes finding hope is seeing evidence that it exists. And that's one of the reasons that we have testimonies here at First NLR. Those in attendance on Tuesday nights, they need to see and hear how God has miraculously changed your life. We also get to be witnesses of radical life change. We watch people whose lives looked completely hopeless begin to change right in front of us. It's incredible. One of my favorite stories, by the way, and as I pause for a minute with that, I just want you to know, when my friend Neil walked through the doors here, and the reason I use him as an example is he was angry. And he was only here because he was just trying to suffice some people, right? But over time, I've watched him turn into, if you know Neil, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He is. He's a miracle. Now, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of how Jesus intervenes in a situation. And that is the story of a man named Lazarus in John chapter 11. Let me read a little of it for you. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. And this is the Mary who later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick. So the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is very sick." So Jesus dropped everything and he hurried to his friend Lazarus. And he prayed for him, and Lazarus was healed on the spot. And Mary and Martha were very pleased with Jesus, and all of their friends rejoiced together. That's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, Jesus came to his friend's rescue. He saved the day. No, that's not at all what happened. Listen to verse 4. But when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this." So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Now, if you're like me, you're thinking, really, Jesus? Why are you waiting? You need to go. It's your friend, for goodness sake. But you see, Jesus had a plan. And believe it or not, whether you understand it or not, he has a plan for you. And keep in mind, his plans are often not even close to our plans, which brings us to the next step of leaving hopelessness behind. Trust in the process. Trust in the process. I want you to remember, you are the one who got yourself in this predicament. Your ways haven't always worked out so well, have they? Don't question the process. That's why you're here tonight. You may have shown up kicking and screaming. Some of you, I have seen a few of you tonight. You are not excited to be here. But I'm telling you this. You are exactly where you need to be at this moment in your life. Exactly where you need to be. And you don't have to understand the why at this point. Just know that there is purpose in the process. Now let's skip down to verse 17. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. And when Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. But Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you'd only been here, my brother would not have died." But listen to this. This is verse 22. "But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask." You see, Martha trusted Jesus, even when things looked hopeless and dismal. And that's the next step to becoming hopeful. Don't allow circumstances to stop you from trusting God. It's pretty apparent. Martha had seen evidence of God's healing power through Jesus by her response in that verse. Let's look at it again. I know that God will give you whatever you ask. Martha trusted God, even when it looked completely hopeless. Now, you may not have personally seen how God supernaturally transformed a person like my friend Jesse. But after listening to him share some of his story in group, you can trust that God completely changed his life. And last week, our friend Diana shared her powerful story of how God rescued her from physical and emotional abuse, sex addiction, a lifetime of chemical dependency, and grief. But God rescued her from the pits of despair, and he completely transformed her life. Trust that God can do the same for you. Yeah. You know, it's evidence of a miracle-working God. And we serve the God who is the God of miracles. Just know that. Martha believed something very special was about to happen. So then she went and she got her sister Mary to come and see Jesus. Verse 32, when Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you'd been here, my brother would not have died." And when Jesus saw her weeping, and he saw all of the other people wailing with her, he was very, very troubled. He said, "Where have you put him?" He asked them. And they said, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. And the people who were standing nearby said, "See how much he loved him." Jesus had compassion on his friends. When Mary cried for her brother, Jesus cried with her. Jesus felt her pain. His love was evident, and it caused others to be drawn to him. However, there's always some doubters in the crowd. Listen to verse 37. It said, "But some said, 'This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?'" Here's another step in the process from moving from hopeless to hopeful. Don't listen to naysayers. Don't listen to the naysayers. There's going to be plenty of people who are going to try to keep you down in the pit of despair. You know, there's an old saying that misery loves company. You know, people who are lost in the cycle of hopelessness, they'll try to deter you from finding your way out of the pit. They don't want you to get happy. They don't want your life to change. They want you to stay miserable. So don't listen to the naysayers. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Don't be fooled by those who say such things, for bad company corrupts good character." Verse 39, "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, "Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." And Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you'd see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside, and then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me. But I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here so that they will believe you sent me." This is the next step to losing your hopelessness, is do what Jesus did. Pray and ask God to intervene. Pray. You can ask God for anything. And as long as it lines up for his will for you, you will receive it. Mark 11:24 tells us, "I tell you, you can pray for anything. And if you believe that you've received it, it will be yours." Now, I will tell you this. He's not going to help you win the lottery. Okay? Lord, man, give me that handsome person across the room. No, he ain't going to do that. Okay? But what he will do is when you sincerely come to him and you ask him, and as long as it aligns with what he wants for your life, he'll give it to you. He always does. Hopelessness will be replaced by expectancy when you ask God to intervene. Now listen to how this story ends. Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out!" And the dead man came out. His hands and his feet were bound in grave cloths, and his face wrapped in a headcloth. And Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go." This is the last step in the process of going from hopeless to hopeful. Don't leave before the miracle happens. Don't leave before the miracle happens. You know, if all the people that were there consoling Mary and Martha, if all of them decided to leave, they would not have witnessed one of the most profound miracles in the history of the world. Jesus' friend keep in mind, he'd been in that tomb for several days. And Jesus prayed and asked his Father to heal Lazarus, and he walked out alive. Yeah. This is for somebody here tonight. Jesus spoke life into a hopeless situation. And he will do the same for you. You just have to believe and trust in the process. But the main key to this is don't leave before the miracle happens. Around here, we call this, what's our famous little saying we say? Keep coming back because it works if you work it and you die if you don't. Believe that. Right? Man, I'll tell you, that's for Lazarus, right? I mean, the people, they knew they could trust Jesus. And they stayed around and they stuck around. So I want you to do the exact same thing here. Just keep coming back. And if you keep showing up every week and working this simple program, you're going to experience a miracle as well. You'll go from hopeless to hopeful to hope-filled. Don't leave before the miracle happens. You know, you find hope when you express your hopelessness. And by admitting that you're powerless and your life is unmanageable, you're stepping out of denial and you're walking into the light. It's in your brokenness that Jesus can do his greatest work in your life. He turns hopeless situations into hope-filled opportunities for his forgiveness and his grace. All you need to do is ask. You know, there are some of you here tonight that walk through these doors and you have lost hope. You need Jesus to move in and through your hopeless circumstance. And there are others here tonight who you're not even sure if you even belong in this place, but you're sick and tired of the chaos in your life. But you know something. Something's got to change. And then there are some of you here that you know you need recovery, but you keep running. You know, it's time to stop running from Jesus and start running to Jesus. You know, I think there's somebody watching right now online who is thinking that, listen, Pastor Lane, there is no hope for me. You don't understand all that I've done. I've hurt so many people. How could a God love someone like me? Listen to me. There's hope. And his name is Jesus. And he loves you. I'm going to invite our prayer partners to come down right now. I think we can spend the next few moments. We've purposefully left us some time. If you're looking for, if you're hopeless, number one, if you've lost hope, if you're sick of the chaos, if you're tired of running, if you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, I want you to do me a favor, stand up right now. All right. There's a lot more of you than that. And all of you that are sitting in denial right now, stand up. Okay? And then I want you to come forward tonight. Let us pray for you. Because God has got a plan for you. But he can't do it if you don't ask for it. So come forward, get some prayer tonight. And I'm looking forward to seeing a miracle in your lives tonight. Will you all stand up with us tonight? Let's worship the King of Kings.